talk about about we're in this epidemic of mistaken identity? What does that mean, and how does it show up for women entrepreneurs, especially those high achieving women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think when I say mistaken identity, I am talking personality and soul, right? Where we think that we are who we know ourselves to be, which is often who we've learned how to be. Again, from expectations that were put on us, right? Like, this is how we live life. These are the codes of conduct that our spheres of influence operate in. This is what I think I need to do or be in order to have these things in my life that I'm supposed to be chasing after that may or may not actually be meaningful.
There's a lot of shoulds out there, right?
My golly.
Expectations of that.
Shoulds, yeah, lots of that stuff. And so any place that we are not seeing ourselves as whole, complete, and perfect as the divine being that we are, to me, that is the mistaken identity.
Hello, my extraordinary women friends. This quarter on Extraordinary Women Radio, we are exploring recalibration, what it means to align how we lead, how we build, and how we define success in this season of business. This theme feels really personal to me. Over the last year, I've watched so many extraordinary women quietly reassess what matters. I've felt it in my own business too, the pace, the priorities, the way we measure success. Recalibration is not about starting over. It's about refining what is true right now. It's about leading from wisdom instead of pressure and allowing our work to reflect who we have become. Today's conversation fits beautifully into this theme. I'm joined by my dear friend, Ronda Renée, a globally recognized for her work in soul alignment and purpose. She's the founder of Divine Navigation and creator of the Divine Coordinates process and the Business in Your Soul program. After generating over $22 million in sales and reaching what many would call a pinnacle of success, Ronda experienced a profound inner awakening that reshaped everything. From that turning point, she developed a powerful body of work that has guided thousands of spiritual and industry leaders worldwide into deeper alignment with their divine coordination. This is a conversation about recalibrating from the inside out, about aligning leadership with soul, and about what becomes possible when success is built on congruence and alignment. I've known Ronda for years. We have always loved diving into soul-centered conversations. And here's a little insight into my own brand that many of you may not know. You often hear me speak about my 3 pillars: vision, voice, and visibility. Well, years ago, I was on a call with Ronda sharing the concepts of my work. She was the one who landed on those 3 words. They became intricately woven into my body of work, and I am forever grateful for that moment. If you feel that quiet recalibration happening inside you right now, this conversation will meet you there. Let's meet Ronda Renée.
Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Ronda. It's so great to have you back. I'm super thrilled for this conversation.
Me too, and I'm honored to be returning.
Yeah, well, as I was thinking, this whole theme in this first quarter, we're going to be talking about recalibration and just what's happening in the world of business and how it's recalibrating. And I did a big research project last year, a listening campaign going out and talking to a lot of women entrepreneurs. And I just kept hearing how things were different and what women were wanting to do differently in their businesses. And one of them is listening, like doing that inner listening. And so when I think about recalibration and really coming in alignment with our businesses, you were top of mind of who I thought of. And so I can't think of anyone more perfect to bring back on to kick off this series around that recalibration that's happening in business.
Thank you. Yes, that is my jam.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like that whole alignment piece. And, I think there's just something important about how we are aligned with how we're being called, doing the work that we're here to do, and showing up in that. And when we do that, our businesses really, really show up for us in a different way. And that's exciting to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is the key. If we're doing everything right, but we're still not getting the results we want, or the results we're getting are taking too much effort and they're coming at too high of a cost, then we have an alignment invitation or a recalibration invitation.
Exactly. Well, I'm excited to dive into this. I want to start with a bit of your story. So you generated over $22 million in sales and built a really significant success on the outside story.
Yeah.
And there was yet something that was still missing on the inside, right? There was something that was shifting inside of you that helped you realize that success alone wasn't enough. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, I think it's a story that many women can relate to, right? It's often feels like there's a clear path set out for us, of the things we're supposed to do, go to school and get a good job and get married and have kids. And there's just way too many times where we don't pause and question along the way. Is this the right path for me? Right. So I was a very good girl and I checked all the boxes and yet, at the end of my second failed marriage, which I actually had annulled, I kind of felt like, wait a minute, like I did everything right. I had an amazing job making more money as an employee. It really is an entrepreneur, than I ever thought possible. Like never had any concept of, living the way that it enabled me to, had multiple rental properties, had these amazing kids, wonderful friends, but I just felt like I kept ending up in this ditch. And so I went on what I jokingly call a personal and spiritual development bender. And I spent like 2 years and $200,000 just like, okay, well, then how might I do it differently? So, not right then, but sometime after, as I continued my own evolution, my work of divine navigation began to reveal itself to me and really just opened up an entirely new understanding of what alignment and fulfillment and purpose and success really are.
And and you kind of jumped over that little piece, like this divine navigation came to you. But I think that's such an important part of your journey is it did actually drop in for you. So tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting story to convey because, people talk about downloads as if they happen all at once. And I talk to my clients about this a lot too. It's like they don't actually come all together. It's really more like breadcrumbs, right? And can we follow them? Can we notice them? Can we follow them? So, it started out, we just had the 15th anniversary, actually, and we had a little online celebration. I was working with another.
I was really bummed I couldn't be there. I knew when it was there. I was like, oh my gosh, I would have loved to have gone to that.
That would have been lovely. Thank you for wanting to be there. We went 3 hours. We were only planned on 2. We went 3, and there were still people who, had things they wanted to say, but we had to let people go. But I was working with another process. I was already kind of working in the purpose space, and I was using another process, and it just simply didn't work that day. And I knew I had something more that was wanting to come through, but I didn't have details on it. And luckily it didn't, the other one didn't work. And I kind of went, help, what am I doing? Right. And the process, the questions that are in the core process called divine coordinates, started coming in that day. But that was only the tip of the iceberg, right? Because then it developed and it expanded and it evolved. And I, over about 4 to 6 months, really got a more broader understanding of what this thing was. But it actually was then 4 to 6 years before I really got what it was.
People wanted all the answers all at once, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. Not only doesn't work, it just doesn't happen that way. Right. So when it doesn't happen that way, but we think that it's supposed to, then we actually inhibit ourselves from getting started in a direction, right? And it's a living, breathing body of work. It keeps teaching me. Just a few weeks ago, I had this whole other awareness around, our family of origin and what we might call divine parenting. And, it's very fascinating. So there's a new divine navigation mastery training on the way that it's developed itself. And so it's a trickle now instead of like a fire hose, which is what it was like in the beginning. I didn't do anything but commune with divine navigation for quite some time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So we're in a real interesting times right now, right? I mean, we are in a time where I literally can feel a shift happening in the world and the way we run our businesses, the way we want to do our lives. And when you feel into that right now, what do you feel happening around us?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's really fun for me, as painful as it also is, to have things change. It's really fun for me because, what I'm really up to is supporting people and living, loving, and leading from their soul. And that is what I feel like we're in the crucible of. If you think about how we interact in the world, whether that's in our business or in our relationships or even with strangers, we're so frequently meeting personality to personality. Like we could say almost always, right? And what would it be like? Even if one of those people, right, in this scenario was coming from soul and seeing the other person as a soul, like how would that change our interactions and our experiences and our results in our businesses? So that is my vision, right? Is that we're
that
each
pause to really, every time you're having an interaction with another person, to actually see soul to soul versus person to person. And that does shift things.
Everything. I mean, if we could just look in another human's eyes and look beyond the surface and beyond what they're projecting or presenting and see into the depths. And sometimes that'll be like, oh, I'm sorry you're so hurt, right? Because a lot of our personality, our coping mechanisms and survival strategies, that served us, that we needed, it felt like, to make it through our lives and through this world. And what if we could put all that down?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that vision. So you talk about about we're in this epidemic of mistaken identity. What does that mean, and how does it show up for women entrepreneurs, especially those high achieving women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think when I say mistaken identity, I am talking personality and soul, right? Where we think that we are who we know ourselves to be, which is often who we've learned how to be. Again, from expectations that were put on us, right? Like, this is how we live life. These are the codes of conduct that our spheres of influence operate in. This is what I think I need to do or be in order to have these things in my life that I'm supposed to be chasing after that may or may not actually be meaningful.
There's a lot of shoulds out there, right?
Oh my golly.
Expectations of that.
Have to's, shoulds, lots of that stuff. And so any place that we are not seeing ourselves as whole, complete, and perfect as the divine being that we are, to me, that is the mistaken identity.
And so how are you helping your clients break back into the real identity?
And that is that is the core of our work with the divine coordinate. So I won't take it too technical there yet, but some of the pieces start really simply with learning how to actually be in our bodies. Most people don't even know that they're driving the car from behind the headlights because they're up in their head, right? So imagine if you were trying to actually drive your vehicle from behind the headlights, like that's a little hard to navigate. You don't end up where you planned to end up. And where I say where you planned, I'm talking about your soul. I'm not like where your personality wants to drive you. So first learning how to really be present. And of course, there's lots of conversation. Like, I am not the only one that talks about that, but we cannot be in the present moment fully unless we're in our bodies first. And that is left out of most of the, be in the now conversation. Yeah. And then
that's been a topic I've been playing with a lot. It's like the embodiment of our messaging, the embodiment of how we're just showing up, because it changes everything once we drop into our body and we move from that place.
Yes. Because people can feel like if you're outside of your body and you're going out to them, right? That can feel like grasping and pulling, right? Where when we're embodied and we're centered and we're grounded, then that's magnetic, and that will pull people toward us. That's the real law of attraction, is about the embodiment of something, right? So be that a desire or a message or your own becoming. And so then we work with shifting from external referencing, which creates our identity and who we think we have to be, or how we're comparing ourselves to anything in the outside world, right? Anything outside of you, and come back to internal sourcing, because nothing will fill the hole where your soul belongs. Nothing. No achievement, no acquisition, no accomplishment, no relationship, no bank account, right? Like that piece, really giving ourselves back to ourselves first, and then staying there, and then offering what it is we have to give the world. So we really primarily do that through our divine coordinates work, with the divine coordinates process, which is where we identify the specific, unique energetic qualities that make up the frequency of your soul. And then we teach you how to vibrate at that, right? So really that is giving yourself back to yourself. And years ago, I never realized this until years ago, when a client said, I didn't know who I was until Rhonda showed me. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I thought I was doing something different. But that is the first thing that we do, right? We answer the question, who am I? Not who am I used to being, not who do I think I have to be, who does my mother want me to be, or my husband want me to be, or, any of those things, but who am I as a soul first?
Yeah, I love it so much. And I think that I've, for years, have played in that same kind of realm of like asking my clients up front. I was like really diving into who am I at my very essence.
Yeah.
Looking at the stories and pulling all the pieces of who you are together. And as you said, it's not the roles we play. It is actually who we are at our heart center, and why we're here right now to deliver this. Yeah. So I have always just resonated with your work, because I feel like, we come at it from different aspects, but what you do is much deeper even than the work that I bring to this. And so I've always loved the work that you do. And kudos for that, for building it and knowing that this is part of this shift, I think, that we're in right now. So when we talk about this recalibration, this is, and even all the conversations I had last year when I went on that listening campaign, what I got over and over again was that women were coming back home to their wisdom. They were really listening, right? They were listening to, what am I being called? Why am I here right now? And letting that lead first. And I think that's part of this big recalibration. And so when we're thinking about soul alignment, being aligned with our soul, how does this fit into the shift that we're in?
Well, I think very much so, because, the personality really comes from a lack, right? That really gives us, in all the different ways, how we're not enough. And I was having a conversation recently with one of my business and your soul clients, and she said, like, oh, okay, so this realization of, I've been operating from not enoughness, and when we're operating from not enoughness, that's when we push and we strive and we force, right? All of those things that lead to burnout and disillusionment, right? When things don't go as we planned. And so we kind of joked about being in the land of enoughness, right? And so like her assignment was, see how it's all enough, just as it is right now, because there's this interesting dynamic that happens, right? When you think about in a relationship, when you're wagging your finger at someone saying you should be different, how inclined are they to change? Yeah. Not terribly, right? So we're always looking at our life and our business as, it's not enough, it should be different, then it's harder for it to actually change, because there's an innate resistance that comes when we're in the lack of whatever variety. I'm not just talking money, right? Yeah. It's all the lackness that we have. So when we're able to come from a wholeness, then we make potentially different choices. And even if the actions look the same, what actually shifts is the energy that we're coming from, because what many don't realize is that it's not the action alone that creates the result. It's the energy behind the action that does the create.
Say that one more time.
Mm-hmm. So it's not the action. The action alone cannot create results.
Right.
It is the energy behind the action. So you might think of that as motivation. I think of it as energy, right? But if I'm coming from lack, then I'm going to grasp and I'm going to maybe like have a bunch of offers and try to say the right thing. And right. But look, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. You can't say the right thing to the wrong person. So, part of this whole recalibration, you touched on it before, is what I think of as the soul's message than say a marketing message, right? So like marketing message ends up putting you in sea of sameness unless you tap into your soul's message and then translate that into how would I say it in the world. But when people go straight to marketing message, they're like, okay, what do I have to say so somebody will buy something from me?
Right.
That's not the end.
Come from you.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. What is coming forth from you? What are you called to express? And then who wants some of that? Yeah. Right. Versus just what will somebody pay me for? Yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love it so much. And so what are some of those clear indicators that somebody is out of alignment with their business?
Yeah. Working all the time. Right? Like always chasing the next strategy. Yeah. Right. Those are going to lead to burnout, right? Yeah. Working way too many hours. Yeah. And it's not just about hours because, when I'm deep in a project, the passage of time is irrelevant to me.
Exactly. I get that.
Right?
I get that.
But it's energizing me rather than like the drudgery of things. Right. Yeah. And when you start to feel disillusioned, you're probably not following the path your soul wants you to. Yeah. Right. Like I'm doing this because someone told me to, I'm doing this because it's what I've seen modeled. It's one of the things I'm most proud of, particularly in our business in your soul community, is that every single graduate has a different business because they have a different soul, right? I might use the same process to get them there, but the expression is as unique as they are. Yeah. Right. So, and I mentioned earlier, when you are doing everything quote unquote right, but not getting the results you want, or the cost of those results is just too high and it's starting to take a toll. That's also a clear indicator. Another one just popped in, which is when you're comparing yourself to anyone else. Anyone else, right? We jokingly call it.
You're not being you. You're not coming from your soul purpose, your soul essence,
right?
You're making
there's the competition does not exist there, and the way that we look at it is, even if it looks like we do something similar, we're just on the same team. We can't serve. None of us can serve everyone, right? So there doesn't need to be any competition. So if you're in competition or comparison, there's a question about alignment, and it might not be necessarily that anything is wrong structurally in the business, but where you're coming from, externally referenced versus internally sourced, where competition and comparison dissolve, then you may not have to make a big change in your business. It's all an inner shift. It's all an inner alignment conversation to start with.
Yeah, and the energetics of that.
All energetics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Strategies and tactics alone do not create, because otherwise we could all do the same things and get exactly the same results, and we know that's not what happens. Yeah, totally. So it's not that. It is the energy.
Yeah, it's interesting because the work that I play with is soul plus strategy. So it's like the soul part of it is the part that enables us to bring that expression of ourselves up and let that lead. And then you can apply the strategies in the mix of that. But it takes both. It totally takes both.
We're on the same.
And the soul part is even more important than the strategy all day long.
In my book, yeah, because it's like having the wind at your back, right? Versus, or this analogy just came to me. When you're going up the hill and you're having to push the gas to keep at the same speed, versus when you're going down the hill and you can take your foot entirely off the gas.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah. I love that. So you hit on this a little bit about burnout and disillusionment. And that has happened. I mean, there's, everybody that I know in the world of entrepreneurship has somewhere along the line hit that.
Hit that wall.
And so, and I think what I in the conversations that I had last year, what I heard over and over again was women were not willing to go to that place anymore. They were not for the sake, they might have big dreams on their business, but not for the sake of their wellness.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about, from your perspective, how much of that comes from building in the wrong direction rather than building too much?
Ooh, distinction of too much. Wrong direction.
Are we going in the wrong direction, or are we doing too much?
It could be either or both. It's such a personal, individual thing. I think the expression, like the end result of it, looks the same, but it could be one or the other. Okay. I think it is a really important thing to ask ourselves, am I in the right business? And so I refer to it as the business in your soul. Yeah. And I hold that as the business you run as well as how you run that business. So diagnostically, I think we first have to check in on, is it the business or is it how I'm holding it? Right. Yeah. So, because I've definitely had some clients where, there's a habituated way of being, right? Where stress is how they were trained to accomplish things. And our bodies will only take so much, right? Especially women as we mature, like we just cannot, we can, but then we know where that's going to lead, right? But literally we're given so many signals of don't do it the old way. Yeah. And what is it going to take for us to listen to that is, I think, an important question. And so sometimes it is quote unquote the wrong direction. And sometimes it is sort of this like not enoughness conversation, right? So we all deal with what I call internal obstacles, and no one is immune from this, right? But there's the ones that have us hide. There's I call that peekaboo syndrome, where it's like, see me, please notice me. Don't look at me. Right. And we have this weird push pull thing that can happen. And then everybody knows what the imposter syndrome is. Right. But understanding what really leads to that is different. Right. Then there's the bright, shiny object syndrome. Very familiar. Yeah, and then there's all the things like, oh, I saw this person do that. Let me try this. Oh, maybe this will work. Right. And we never give enough attention or consistency to something. Look, my question always is not, will this work? But it's how will this work? But only when we've listened first and our actions are being initiated from that internal sourcing of soul. Right. Otherwise, we're going to end up in the sea of sameness where we're trying to adapt to what people want from us or what we think people want from us. So, those are all the how you hold it space more than the directional space. And it's been both. I had a client years ago who was a controller, like a CFO type person, and really was meant to be in grief counseling, right? Like, so total different detour of changing the dynamic. And she wasn't very open to that initially, but she was just on the anniversary celebration sharing that story of how resistant she was initially. And then when she went in that direction, everything that opened up for her. So it's really hard to say unless it's just, individual by individual of whether it's just simply not the right business. Of course, is based on who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Who I am as a soul first, as the energetic foundation in my world.
And really tuning into that wisdom underneath to look at both sides of that.
Yeah, which is not that easy to do. Yeah, look, we have other voices in our heads. Yeah. We have one of my favorite stories, if you can indulge me for a moment, is a Zen story about the Golden Buddha. Have you heard this story?
I don't know, maybe.
So, in the conquering days, right, when all the conquerors were going through East Asia and stealing land from each other back and forth, whatever, there was a monastery that had a giant solid gold statue of Buddha.
Yeah,
And
I have heard this, and they cover it, right?
Cover it, right? So they got word soldiers are coming through looting. And so they cover it with clay and mud so that the soldiers don't think it's valuable. So when the soldiers are finally on their way, they still keep it a secret. And then eventually all those that knew there was solid gold under there were no longer on the earth. And then the clay and mud started to crack, revealing the solid gold underneath. And that is us. That is our soul and life. Right. Circumstances, that's the mud. And so we joke in preparation for someone having their divine coordinates identified, we refer to it as getting the gunk off so that we can get a clearer read on things. And that always connects me to we are the solid gold Buddha.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Just don't.
I love it. So what is the opportunities you see for women business owners in these times right now when they are connected and aligned, fully aligned to their divine coordinates?
Yeah. I think there's really an inherent shift in how we live our lives and what we see as meaningful and valuable. And I think, as I have watched my dad passed many years ago, so he didn't make it to this ripe old age kind of thing. But in watching when we spend our lives and we invest, I'll say, our lives in things that are only tangible, we realize way too late that the intangibles are actually what's valuable.
Yeah.
So not your normal business conversation.
Yeah, right.
If we're going to bring meaning and not just live our purpose as in something we do for who, right? Like for me, purpose isn't about what we do for who. It's about who do I be for me? Yeah. And then the expression of that gets to be shared with other people. Yeah. But they're not lacking anything that I need to come in and give them per se, right? Like that's an external reference of purpose. Right. But our beingness, who we were sent to be on the planet, because it is our frequency and whole of our soul and holding that frequency that actually is our purpose. And that's true for everyone. So in essence, everyone has the same purpose, except their soul is here to express something different. Yeah. So for me, it's and it's such an interesting dialogue to be having in the whole age of AI and that kind of thing. But I think that even makes it more important than ever. That we are not commodities, that we are unique expressions of the divine. And how are we expressing that? And some of us are called to do that through a business, but that doesn't mean like entrepreneurs are not the only ones that got tapped on the head by the purpose fairy, right? We all are here for a purpose and not judging that, right? Running our own race, if you will. If we got to run a race at all, I'm not a runner.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's like we're not running the race. I'm not a runner either, but it is being in our solid groundedness of who we are and the reason we're here and the gifts of what. And you think about just the craziness of our world right now. I think the more people are stepping into being aligned with who they are, that's what's going to shift our world.
100%. I mean, I talk about micro and macro. We cannot actually change the world on the level of world. Right. That's not possible. That is not within any of our one individual's control. Right. It is each of us fully stepping in, doing our piece in here, right? Our piece of inner peace, right? That is going to be the opportunity. It's going to take each one of us showing up fully from our soul to be who we were born to be, to give the gifts we were born to give, and to make the difference that we were sent here to make. That is when the world can reach its potential, only when we do. Yeah. Right?
Like one person by one person by one person.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally agree with that. What's your greatest vision for the world?
It really is that people understand that there's so much more than they know themselves to be. Yeah. So much more, right? That everything you were told that you had to be is a cheap imitation of who you're actually designed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's chat a little bit about your business as you move out of client delivery and into steering this global brand. What recalibration are you personally navigating right now?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good, I don't know, did I tell you that? Or are you just seeing that that's what's happening?
Well, I'm seeing it happen, but I think you shared a bit of that too. Yeah.
Okay. Like, did I say that? Yeah, because it's hard because, man, I love the front row seat to the transformation of clients, right? So I have said for a long time, like, I don't know if I can give up client delivery. So there has been a shift, right? So mostly in our Divine Coordinates Activation program, my certified divine navigation coaches are doing a lot of that delivery. I'm in the groups, right? And I mostly work with our coaches and our business and your soul clients. It's okay. I didn't know this was going to be the answer, but this is what's coming is, it's not about me at all.
Yeah.
Right. It's about the work. And I have joked for a really long time that my job is just to listen and obey, which is very different than the person I used to be, for sure. But my navigation is in charge. There are plenty of choices that I have made and continue to make that, frankly, I don't want to work that hard. Like I might even call myself lazy in some respects, but when the work tells me I need to be doing something, then that's when I do it.
Yeah. And there's expansiveness in what you're doing there, right? I mean, there's expansiveness that can happen because, we can only deliver so much. And, when we can expand the good work that we're doing into the world, that creates that ripple effect.
Yeah. And I think the other piece that I want to make sure to emphasize is like, a body of work such as mine does start with the steward, right? There also has to be a time when it's released, so that it can grow, because we are the container for our businesses, at least at the beginning. And then as they take off on a life of their own, one person cannot hold all of that.
Right. And I think the other side of that too, Rhonda, is that we have to take care of ourselves in order to be able to deliver our best work and show up with our best work. And that's the other side of it, is like, how do we take care of the vessel of ourselves and do our best work so that it can create the impact that it does in the world, but all of us can be fully expressed.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that, I mean, you're the product, in the early days, you are the product. So self-care is especially necessary from the start. And then there is a time where it needs to move off of you. I was recently having a conversation with one of my long-term, I think we're in our 10th year together. And I was able to point out, like, here, and here is where you're making yourself indispensable. It comes down to like self-importance, or, and like, so if we've moved beyond that and the commitment is to the work, and one might say movement, that's not really language that I use, but it's what's coming in right now, then how much can you take yourself out of it? And plus, that's when you really have a business, is when you can take yourself out of at least certain aspects.
No, I think that's wise, and I think that, and I do use the word movement because that aligns for me. It really, my mastermind is the movement maker mastermind, and so it's and it's and then just as a side note, and I mentioned this in the intro already, but you helped me with the vision, voice, and visibility. My 3 V's. I don't know how many years ago that was, but it was a long time ago. But
2019, I can tell you when it was.
That's awesome that you know when it was.
I do. I have these weird, I don't know what today is or what the date is, but I can tell you these weird time-stamped moments that I just have such a clear vision.
You get this drop in. If Rhonda gets a drop in for you, go with it. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for that acknowledgement. Yes. Yeah. I love seeing you continue to use that. Yeah. That was part of our work in soulful selling.
All those years ago. Yeah. So I love it. So as you think of this next chapter for your business, like any lessons that you want to share with our audience as far as the next, taking your business to that next level, that growth, that evolution, just any wisdom you have there.
2 things are dropping in. One is make sure it's your vision, not what you think you want, right? I've delineated 8 stages of business that you don't have to go to any of them, but you have to grow through each of them. And what I have found very frequently is that what we see modeled most commonly, at least in the transformation industry, which is where I put myself, even when I'm working with transformational business owners, right? I still consider it the transformation industry. Most of them do not want to run what they've seen modeled. And so they think there's something wrong with them because they don't want that. So want what you want, but make sure it's your soul's wants, not your personality wants. So that's the first thing that dropped in. And let me see if I can get the second one, because now I got into that stream. What was the second one that came in? And have what you have. Interesting. Want what you want and have what you have. Meaning, want what, like, be true to yourself in terms of what it is you're really after building. And oh, by the way, you can change your mind, right? And so I'm always saying, like, keep an eye on where you want to go, but we can only take action here. So I see a lot of people try to build for the place they aren't yet. And that actually can slow them down from doing the fundamentals and the foundations that need to be in place to go to that ultimate spot. But like looking at, say like your business or my business that are more mature, like they didn't just spring up overnight. They were built brick by brick by brick. And so along the way, acknowledge yourself, enjoy what you've done, not always racing off to the next spot, right? Like, let's all live in the land of enoughness.
Yeah. Love it. I love it a lot. Okay. So where can people learn more about you, your business, and all your good work, Rhonda?
Yeah. So thank you, first of all, Cami, for having me again on Extraordinary Women. It's just such a joy. And I'm so value our connection after all this time. So our main website, full of resources, divinenavigation.com. And I really would encourage everyone to consider exploring the internal obstacles framework training that really helps to see what might be holding you back specifically in terms of the universal fears and shadows that I've delineated, or Divine Navigation has delineated for me within the divine coordinates, to understand what it's going to take for you to go to your next level. And when I say what it's going to take, I'm not talking about pushing or striving. I'm talking about transmuting those personality paradigms that are keeping us from fully showing up as ourselves.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. The final question I always close with is, what are 3 pearls of wisdom you want to leave with us today? You've left with, already given us so much, but 3 pearls of wisdom you want to close with.
3 of them. I mean, everything I do comes back to the same thing, right? You are far more extraordinary than you realize. If only you could see what I can see in you. And that untapped potential is why you were sent here. So the more you align with your soul, the more the expression you put into the world honors not only who you were designed to be, but who you are becoming, because we are always in the process of becoming who we were born to be.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that counts as 3, but that's what came.
I think we're good. That's powerful and strong. Rhonda, thank you so much for sharing your good wisdom. It's always a delight to spend time with you, and just great to see you.
Yes, let's do it again soon.
Yeah, let's do.